Hi, this is Catherine again on day 4, video 2 of the 30-day video challenge, with my challenge being to try and get more women into motorbiking. This is video 2 of the day, to catch up on the fact that I didn't post a video yesterday. So, video 1, I talked about how I think it's important for you to try and be a pillion rider first so that you get an idea for what biking is like before you actually take your first lessons. For the second video today, I would actually like to tell you my story, how I got into motorbiking. Reality is, it all actually started with my dad. My dad, in his youth, he was a biker, tearing about sort of the Midland areas actually, sort of Staffordshire and the like, in England. And he mostly rode vintage Japanese. Well, okay, vintage now, back then, not so vintage, brand new back then. Back then it was the early 70s. He liked his Hondas and his Yamahas and the odd Kawasaki, but he preferred his Hondas. He liked the fact that mechanically they were much more straightforward. They made more logical sense, basically, than a lot of the other bikes. And he liked the rich, deep, smooth sound that it makes, actually. That is a bit of a trademark for Honda, really, is that they have a very nice, rich, deep sound from the engine. Yeah. He gave up his biking, though, in the mid-70s after he met and married my mum, mostly due to work commitments. So he didn't ride for many years, actually. It was close on 3 decades, I think. But then when I was a teenager, he took it back up again. I can't remember the exact bike he bought, but what he did was he bought some more bikes from the 70s. These would be now vintage bikes, all Japanese ones, and he started restoring them, because he originally was a mechanic, specialising in Honda. So he started restoring some of these old bikes, and yeah, he did a lovely job. He always wants to make sure that you get all the original parts. He doesn't quite go as extreme as some restorers. I mean, some restorers do have a tendency to want to restore classic bikes using even classic tools. Hey, if that's their thing, then great. But no, he didn't quite go that far, but he did make sure to restore bikes to their former glory. And the bike that I remember the most, because I had to help out on it the most, was the dilapidated Benelli Sei. Now, Benelli is an Italian brand. It was a bit unusual, you know. I wouldn't have expected him to pick an Italian brand to restore, but this one was particularly rare. It's a Benelli Sei. The Sei is for the 6-cylinder engine, and I think there were only 3,000 of them made in the world. There was a bit of a restricted run on how many were made, and it was the bike that he always wanted from his youth, you know. We all have them. We all have the bike that we desperately want. It's our heart's desire, and that was his, you know, in his youth. So he bought one that was dilapidated, that couldn't even start, and restored it, and I helped. I had to help. My mum couldn't help because she wasn't strong enough to be able to hold the bike up by the forks, basically. Bearing in mind, I'm 5'6". Well, I was 5'6" back then. I'm 5'7" now, and I have a bit of strength in me. My mum, she's Japanese, and she's only 5 foot tall and really tiny, you know, and she's got no strength. So he really needed my help. So that's what I did. You know, I helped him to restore his bike. And he started going on tours, but he quickly found out, though, that the vintage stuff tended to fall apart, unfortunately, whilst he was touring. So he would always have his vintage bikes. He'd buy 1 or 2 every couple of years to restore, and he would also have a modern bike. as well. Um, he had a BMW K1200 RS for a very long time. It's a hell of a beast, and yeah, it served him very well for many years. So that was his touring bike, so that he would be able to ride onto the continent in relative comfort and safe in the knowledge that it probably won't fall apart anytime soon. So Dad would go touring, and I'd stay at home, and otherwise I'd help him out, sorting out his old retro bikes. When I moved to London, then I used to also visit him for various vintage motorbike events as well. And it was quite cool because, well, not just the atmosphere, because I mean the atmosphere is always amazing at these events, but also that I got to see a bit of his past, you know? It's always nice to see that sort of thing, and yeah, you know. One year, it must have been 3 years ago now. Yeah, 3 years ago. Then Dad announced that he was going to go to Provence in the south of France, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him on his bike. I was also at this point the only person in the family who hadn't ridden with him to France. So I figured, oh, why not? I'd helped him fit out these bikes before. I'd had a good time, at the events and whatnot. So yeah, why not give it a shot? See how it goes. So my very first experience riding a bike was riding pillion with my dad. And yeah, it was quite scary, It did take me a while to sort of calm down, probably about 10 minutes or so. But the reason for that was because it took more than 10 minutes to get to the nearest straight road. My parents always live in the countryside where you have to go on lots of twists and turns and lovely little country roads, which is great when you know what you're doing on a bike and what to expect. When you've never ridden a bike before or been on a bike before, then it's a little bit scary. So it did take until I was on the dual carriageway with him for me to calm down. But the good thing is, because the bike is so big and heavy, this old BMW, that it didn't matter that I wiggled a bit, because it takes an awful lot to wiggle a bike that is 285 kilograms minimum. So once I got over that, I realized very quickly that it was the most amazing freedom and so much fun, to see the world flash by and to be able to smell everything as it comes, and you go into a dip in the road and the temperature would drop by about 2 degrees, or you'd climb up a little bit higher onto another hill and it would warm up because you're just that smidge closer to the sun, and it was wonderful, So we went to Provence, and that still probably is the most amazing holiday I've ever been on, because when you ride by motorbike and when you go touring as well, you can't carry much luggage. And we were gone for, well, I was gone for 5 nights, 6 days, and Dad had been gone for something like 10 nights, 11 days, because he rode all the way from England into France using the autoroutes. And the reason that it's so wonderful was because, well, it was not just liberating to be on a bike, which really is the ultimate symbol of freedom for me, but also because I learned that it's only when you are left with the shirt on your back that you really learn what is important to you in life. And for me, the most important things are my family, having a well-fitted kitchen, because I love cooking as well, a bike, the road, countryside. and preferably temperate temperatures. I really struggle. As soon as the temperature dips below 10 degrees, then I struggle on my motorbike, and daily life just gets a little bit tiresome. So yeah, really, that for me was what changed my life, and that for me was what really got me into biking. It was just that freedom and knowing that you don't need a lot in life to be really happy and to be fulfilled. That was my story. Now, tomorrow's video, I want to show you, I want to bring you to my best friend. So, come and see me tomorrow.